Hello, everyone. I'm Zenda Ophir from South Africa, currently based in Switzerland. I'm very pleased to speak today about the topic of decolonization because of its importance. It's something we should not dismiss, and that in evaluation we should pay far more attention to than we actually have done up to now. I come from a country where I've been part of those who colonized it for hundreds of years, and I've also been part of a colonized people. But that's another story. So today I just want to share with you some of the thoughts that one need to keep in mind when dealing with the subject. I will provide some resources with lots of examples that you may want to look at in a separate note. Now, you know that for 500 years, much of the world was physically colonized, almost exclusively by what we know today as the West, or the global North, the rich countries, the white people. The division between the so-called global South and global North is therefore not geographic or only the result of differences in per capita income. Instead, the global South is characterized by shared memories and deep empathy with the many incredible atrocities that colonization brought. These indigenous societies in Anglo-Saxon countries like North America, Australia, and New Zealand are therefore, in essence, also part of the global South. Now, colonization formally ended, or at least the majority of it ended about 60 years ago, but its legacy continues in many ways. It's even reflected in some of the dynamics that have emerged with the Ukraine-Russia war. Now, what is the legacy of colonization? Well, some of what continues relates to the financial looting of the global South, which continues as a direct result of colonization. Studies have shown that rich countries have drained $162 trillion from the global South since colonization ended in around 1960. I give a reference to that in the list of resources, so you can read the data yourself. But bilateral and multilateral aid is therefore nothing more than a band-aid. We all work under the assumption that even bad aids can help heal. But much more importantly, perhaps, are the colonized mindsets in both the global South and the global North. Colonized mindsets believe unquestioningly in dominant narratives that come from the West, often without us realizing it. Narratives that privilege Western ways of thinking and Western ways of doing. And this inadvertently forces us into beliefs and actions, lifestyles, practices, and also in evaluation that do not serve our societies well. To illustrate this, please take the time, the 15 minutes, and watch on YouTube the wonderful TED Talk about the danger of a single story by Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. It's in your resource list. Please take the time. The danger of the single story. It refers to the narratives that are told to us in ways that we believe them, even if they're not true or half true. So decolonizing mindsets and practices means that all of us need to center the concerns and worldviews of those who were previously colonized. It means that we also need to revitalize our understanding of our own cultures and identify where dominant narratives may take us away from what we should value in society, in each of our societies, and their effect on other societies. So the previously colonized need to see themselves through their own assumptions and perspectives. This is very important for the intellectual elite from the global South, which includes evaluation specialists. because they often have deeply colonized mindsets because of the media and entertainment that they're exposed to, and their studies and lives in the West. Those from the global North also need decolonization. They need to understand how their assumption and their perspectives continue to color their view of the world and of other people, and how others are affected by that in ways that do not serve their societies well. So how do we know that we have colonized minds? Well, for example, if you believe any of the following 4 statements, you may want to think about decolonizing your mind. Do you believe the West is superior to the rest of the world, and that all countries should strive to develop to meet Western standards? Do you believe that experts from the West need to help those in the global South to develop, while there is little that the rest in the global South can teach the West? Do you believe humanity is superior to nature and that we have the right to develop, irrespective of what we do as cost to the animals, the plants, the soil, the air, the sea around us? Do you believe the West stands for democracy and human rights? Or that democracies are good while authoritarian governance systems or regimes, as they are often called, are bad? If you think any of the above, think about decolonizing your mind. But more to the point, for evaluation specialists, do you believe that we can develop societies through isolated project-based approaches and therefore through project-based evaluation? Do you believe evaluation capacity development is something that is primarily needed for evaluators in the global South, not so much in the global North? Do you believe that results, as usually defined in our theories of change, are more important than relationships between people, with nature, with the universe? Do you believe that individual rights are more important than society's rights? Or do you think they should be in balance? Do you believe that using the DAC evaluation criteria will help us to contribute to large-scale change and transformation? Do you admire Indigenous evaluators' work, yet believe that the philosophies and knowledge systems of non-Western societies can contribute little to what we need to solve today's problems? If you said yes to any of these, you may want to think about decolonizing your mind. Now, what can WOPIs do to decolonize evaluation? Well, WOPIs help us all to work together. They can help us all to work together towards drastic change. The world needs unity, not division, and so do evaluators. So WOPIs can inspire and promote initiatives where evaluation specialists work together across many boundaries, cultural, geographic, philosophical, ideological, to decolonize our theories and our practices by blending the best of the West with the best of the rest, and be very aware where dominant narratives from the West and dominant models and ways of thinking, dominant framings, dominant ways of thinking about change may not be what we need. WOPIs can encourage evaluation specialists to be proud of their own philosophies and knowledge systems, to deepen their knowledge about that, and yet also to be aware of the need to help root out bad practices that are clearly destructive for the well-being of societies in the global south, according to their own judgments. WOPIs can encourage South-South cooperation to learn from extraordinary success stories and promote initiatives like Made in Africa evaluation and South-South evaluation, which have struggled and are struggling to take off due to the lack of financing and ignorance of what is possible. South-South, South-to-South evaluation and Made in Africa evaluation are promoted by regional evaluation associations in the global south. Work together and make it work. WOPIs can also help bring evaluators together with people in other disciplines and fields who understand non-Western philosophies and who can tell us what is wrong with the stories we tell ourselves about how long-term change works in our cultures, or who can alert us to the appropriateness of our models, our practices, or the language we use, our insensitivities when we deal with others, even within our own societies. WOPIs can be at the forefront of advocating that funders who really care should finance innovative research on and demonstrations in decolonizing evaluation. But we should also up our own practice to be far more insightful about what decolonization really can mean in practice. We are not yet doing well in demonstrating its value. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, WOPIs need to be at the forefront of embracing systemic complexity and long-term thinking. Complexity thinking is deeply rooted in non-Western philosophy and practices. Maybe you don't know that. It has been applied for thousands of years across the global south. Most recently, in the extraordinary success story of China's development. Reductionist, short-term, fragmented, siloed thinking that does not recognize interdependencies, that does not connect dots, is typical of Western thinking. Evaluation has brought into that big time through projects and theories of change. We all need to reject reductionism if we are to be successful in what we can contribute to the world of today. So this is an exciting time. It is a time of transformation. It's a time of business unusual. Even a decade ago, thinking about decolonization would not have been possible. It would have not been a topic of conversation, a priority for action. But it is today. So let's do it. Let's become good at decolonizing evaluation, because only then can we release the full energy of the global evaluation community to contribute to good practice and desperately needed solutions. You see, we fight for gender because we say it's no good that one gender dominates the others, or that one gender can work and the other can't work to fulfill their potential. The same with the global north and the global south. We need to have space for both, without arrogance, without thinking that the one has more to contribute than the other. With that kind of attitude, we may be able to decolonize our mind, our practices, and what we can contribute to the world. So feel free to connect with me if you need any further information or clarification. I'll provide you with some resources with examples done by people who write extensively and talk extensively about this field of work.